And we are recording. First of all, thanks to everyone who is watching this interview. We have Miguel and Silvia Ribeiro. Is that how you pronounce Ribeiro?
Yeah, it's you
Yeah.
pronounce it with a Spanish
Okay.
accent, but that's very similar to the Portuguese one.
Okay.
And better than what
They are
when the
from.
English speakers try
Yeah,
to pronounce it.
they really
Okay.
can. They damage
I can
it.
understand that. Yeah.
Yeah.
They are from Red Room Publishing, and we're going to talk about a lot of things today. First, thank you, Miguel and Silvia, for being here.
Thanks for the invitation. We
Yes, thank you.
appreciate.
Now, before we get into deeper stuff, tell us about your current projects.
Should I start?
Yes, you should start, of
So we
course.
always have lots of projects. So we have sometimes we release one item a week, one product a week. So this is constantly doing stuff. Um, so right now I have three or four things in the pipes. We have a small setting taking place in Hollywood. Well, not Hollywood, but a Hollywood-like city in the golden age of cinema. We have a samurai game that is not. I didn't write. It was one of our friends that wrote for us, and will be released soon. And we have a superhero setting for, well, not quite superhero, but street level superhero for our
Oh.
Wretched game. So this is basically the things that are mostly almost ready.
Well, in last week, so we just released the second version of Red's Apocalypse.
Yeah, it was
It was.
the last
It's still
the last
new,
second
exactly.
edition.
Yes, I was curious because the what I understand from the Wretched role playing, it's great to handle like mid-level settings, not too high
Mhm.
fantasy, not too overblown. So I thought a
Yeah,
superhero game, but if it's street level, it makes a lot of sense.
yeah. I think it. Well, I did it 50% only. There's another. Maybe you know him, the OG GM. He has a YouTube channel as well. He did half of that, and he's doing the source books. So he made it a little bit higher level than I would have. He edited the rules and all that. He did some changes, but in the beginning, the idea was to do just kind of like the Punisher and that kind of Daredevil, uh, street level guys, or even pulp heroes.
Vigilantes are not really superheroes, right?
Yeah, not really superheroes like Superman or whatever. Yeah, because the level is kept usually at 10, even though in case of vigilantes you can go up from 10.
I'm quite curious as to how that is going to turn out because a lot of superhero settings are pretty, how would you say, mainstream. But something that I think it tells the Red Room apart from other publishers is that you like to explore like somewhat obscure, weird subjects. So
Mhm.
when it comes to that, I would love to know your origins, both of you. How did you get started playing tabletop RPGs?
I think you can also start, Miguel, because you started
Okay. Yeah,
before I did, because you're
yeah.
older.
Well, of course, yeah. You have to remember that. So I started. Well, I started late actually. I was already 16, I think, in '99. I had played those fighting fantasy game books, but in Portugal, obviously, role-playing games weren't famous, weren't popular, weren't almost no one knew about it. But in '99, there was a release, a translation of a box set, the first basic box set, the red box set, and it was the only thing that was ever translated to Portuguese, as far as I know. Well, Portuguese in Europe, of course. In Brazil, they did many translations later. And I bought it, and I started trying it with friends. So basically, that's it. I started with Dungeons and Dragons, but I didn't play Dungeons and Dragons a lot. We that was it was more or less that time that Advanced Dungeons and Dragons Second Edition was released. So we jumped over to AD&D, and then because I am a horror fan, much more than a fantasy fan, we did played it for what? 2 years maybe, and then we started experimenting with other stuff and starting with Call of Cthulhu, which was obviously the first choice for horror games. Now it's your turn, Sylvia.
Okay, so like Miguel, I discovered my first contact with role-playing games. I would say it was the Flight Fantasy books. Of course, they're not really a role play, but they're similar, especially for a kid. But I didn't have nobody to play it at the time, so I only actually discovered role-playing games when I was probably at college. But I didn't have nobody to play with because there's no my friend at the time didn't play, and there's not really a community here. So I played some games by mail or by forum that never went really well. Right? We didn't even had Discord or Roll20 or Zoom to play back then, so it was all in written. I only actually started playing in person when I met Miguel. And that's one of the reasons that we met. We were looking for players.
That sounds
So
awesome.
I
I think it's great. Mhm.
I never played D&D. I can say that, right? I skipped that part. And
Yeah,
like most people that started
true.
with D&D, I did play it on by forum, but I think all the D&D games that I tried to play, they failed after a couple of sessions because online people just didn't show up.
Mm. And when did you thought about becoming role-playing game designers? What sparked the whole concept?
Okay, so again, it was horror that made me do it. About what, 3 years ago was
It was during COVID, right?
during the
Or
first
at the beginning.
lockdown, I
I'm
think.
not
Yeah,
sure.
the first lockdown. I was thinking that most newish horror games were a little bit, sometimes not just a little bit, a lot watered down, and they were starting to be like it doesn't look like horror anymore. So I was thinking to myself, I should do something about it instead of complaining. And I had several scenarios, not quite scenarios, they were almost settings. Well, you know them because you already reviewed them. I had written those in the early 2000s, I think.
So it was Welcome to St. Cloud, Orpheum Loft, and the Memorial.
Yeah, and the other one as well, Postcards from a Valley that didn't have
Yes.
it didn't have that name, but it was already kind of written. So I thought, well, I'm going to start translating this stuff, and I'll probably release it for free at drive-thru. But then in a Facebook group, I was asking the best way to do it, and Green Jim gave me some recommendations, and I messaged him and told him, well, if you want to release it yourself, I won't mind. So he has his own publisher, Postmortem Studios, and I sent him the first Giallo scenario, which was Orpheum Lofts, and he kind of liked it. So that's how it started. Obviously, this was how we started writing the first stuff, but then later it turned into something else with Rich and
yes, and I joined right when he said, "Okay, I'm do something by myself." I was already kind of helping Miguel, but I was just reviewing what he was writing and giving him some extra ideas for plot hooks. But then he kind of convinced me, "You can also write something."
Mm. And what would you say were the greatest challenges when you first started to publish your own RPGs and books and all of that?
Oh, several things. Well, I can go to the background of that as well. So after a while, Grimm had published, I don't know, 5 or 6 books. But then he started his own project that took a long time. What's his name?
He also had health issues with Whitechester.
Yeah, Whitechester, yeah. So, and I was thinking about learning how to do layouts myself, that I had never had much experience with that. So I started trying it, and I still did a couple of layouts for Postmortem, for my own stuff. So that was the first issue, was learning how to do a layout. it wasn't that difficult after all. I thought it would be worse than it was. And then, then I thought, well, okay, it's going to take even longer than was expected because he had health issues. So I probably am going to start publishing stuff by myself. And then we had, I did it with Sylvia's help. We were doing something that at first it was to be published still by Postmortem. We had thought about an idea of doing a fantasy campaign setting that wouldn't be quite fantasy. So mixing fantasy,
low fantasy, yeah,
low fantasy, mixing low fantasy with a spaghetti western spirit. So inspiring it instead of Tolkien or those usual things, inspiring it in bad fantasy movies of the 80s. So those Conan ripoffs, like the Barbarians and all that stuff. So kind of funny as well, but and wretched as well. That's why the name Wretched.
By the way, yes, exactly. That's where it came from.
So it was all wretched. But the campaign setting at the time, we call it, we were playing with the names, and Wretched Bastards was.
Well, it was the Seven Bastards because it was inspired. That was how Miguel fooled me to start writing something because, I don't really like fantasy, so you write it. And the idea was to be inspired in the Seven Samurais, or of course the Seven Magnificent. How do you say it in English? But the Magnificent Seven. I was going to call them the Magnificent Seven Bastards. So to create a group, a party that they are all bastards. So because they're all anti-heroes, but they are obliged to end up being the saviors of the day and the heroes. So that was the idea for the setting that turned out, of course, to be a game and a much bigger setting.
Yeah, because that was thought as a book that would be published by someone else. But when we decided to do it ourselves, we thought that, well, just the campaign setting doesn't make sense. We should have a rule set as well. And since we have started the YouTube channel months before, and we were interviewing lots of people, that was basically what
mostly OSR people, right?
Mostly, yeah. We had interviewed several game designers that were OSR, about a dozen of them, and well, that made sense. That was the people we were talking to, that we should pick OSR, an OSR game, and so we adapted basic expert rules for D&D, and we did, instead of releasing a campaign setting, released a rule set and the small campaign setting as well. So the two things at the same time, and that's how we started. Choosing the system was kind of easy because, well, that's what I, for the reason I just said. We were interacting with lots of people in the OSR, so it made sense to use it.
In the creativity of the spirit of the OSR was actually inspiring at the time, and at the same time, we didn't want to invent a system completely from scratch because you can only be that original, right? Most systems already been invented, so we can come up with something, but it's just a variation. So we decided, okay, we know that this works. How can we make it different and tailor it to our bastard line, our wretched line?
Yep.
Yes, because as they say, if it ain't broke, why fix it, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
And now I'm very bad at math.
There is a lot of versatility when it comes to the settings. You have everything from Wild West to the wretched epoch sort of setting. I noticed that it truly displays the flexibility of the wretched role-playing game system. So do you have some major influences? What would you say were your influences when coming up with those settings?
The settings, well...
overall, I would say, right, cinema and pulp adventures. You know, we like, for classic, we like the classics. We like that feeling of classic adventures, and I think all our games and settings are very cinematic. We take lots of inspiration from cinema.
Even the rules, we try to do it very cinematic, because, well, it's my biggest. I like to read, and I like gaming, but my major influence is cinema. So inspiring movies are the major sources of inspiration, even though there are others. And I picked some stuff that probably most Americans usually aren't really aware of, European influences that make it a little bit different. Not original, but a little bit different than the usual offer that usually comes from the US. So it's and nerd culture has some icons like Lovecraft and well, other writers, like Tolkien, and we didn't go for that, and we chose different references.
Did you take some influences from real life as well, such as, for example, history?
Yeah, very much. Including in the game, so there's a Wretched Epoch. Wretched Epoch is a 19th century, late 19th century, so Belle Epoque, taking place in Paris. So lots of history there. Then there is Antebellum, which is between wars. That one has no right place to play it. You can play it anywhere. Obviously, country is a Western, even though that wasn't made with specific historical preoccupations, because it's mostly inspired by spaghetti westerns. So it's there's not much history in there, and some of the scenarios as well. Some of them take place in. We usually don't do anything taking place right now. Most things are 70s, 60s, 40s,
90s,
90s,
the latest.
the latest ones. Because I feel like, well, for example, horror. I feel like the horror works much better in the 90s than right now, because there were less. So, for example, computers and cell phones were much less common at the time, so it's easier to make people be characters, especially be disconnected from the world or out of reach. So, and for other things like exploitation, we did lots of exploitation, and exploitation works much better in the 70s than other decades.
Although it's also quite interesting because when it comes to Avalidad, to the setting, you do have that weird technology like biotech or combining flesh with devices. For those of you that are not aware, they actually have a game console that is made out of fleshy material. Can you tell us about that? How did you come up with that fusion of technology with the organic?
So there are several sources of inspiration for that. One of them is Cronenberg, especially the movie Exit Stands. So that was the idea for the console. They had lots of.
I don't know if they call it neuropod in. I'm not sure. They have some name for it that is also very good, but I don't think it's the same that we that
No,
you have given it.
It's similar, but not exactly the same. So lots of not just that one, but that's one example, but other Cronenberg movies as well.
It has that very flashy, yeah.
Yeah, so the biotech has always that flashy look and feeling. So that was one of the things. But also William Burroughs, the writer. There's also one movie about Naked Lunch, kind of an adaptation, the possible adaptation to cinema by Cronenberg. So that was the connection as well.
And there's a connection of William Burroughs had a connection with Avalidad or with the Interzone. How it was called in the real world, because he was there. So the idea also started from that fact, right?
Yes, actually, Avalidad in the first name was Interzone, but then the publisher decided to change it because he thought that it might cause some confusion with Stalker, the video game Stalker. There's the zone and all that, so he gave it a name that was different and it sounded a little bit strange. But yeah, so William Burroughs wrote Naked Lunch in in Tangier, in a place that was called the Interzone at the time, because it was an international zone, so Interzone, international zone. So that's how it started as well. the connection with
And
Burroughs.
he's the one of the inspirations of the writers that then created cyberpunk.
Yes, that's also.
Although he wasn't cyberpunk, so there's a.
Yeah, he was kind of a pioneer for cyberpunk, even before Avant la lettre, so to speak. So there are several connections there, and also we try to mix a little bit of Clive Barker as well, because we like horror and demons. So A Validade is not just biotech, it's not just cyberpunk, it's also a bit of horror mixed in as well. So, and obviously there's lots of body transformation and flesh in Clive Barker's books and movies.
I really enjoy the way that you mix things of the supernatural, the occult, and all of that in your settings. Are you only drawing inspiration from H.P. Lovecraft and Clive Barker, or do you also look like into secret societies and occult philosophy and all of that?
I'm not a big reader of real world, at least not now, not real world supernatural right now, or myth or magic. But
Because I did notice that you included Aleister Crowley, right, in one of the books.
That is the part of I'm going to say of the historicals. We want to mix, for example, in Epoch, and we want to mix real historical facts and some people that were involved with magic. Also, but then you can start inventing things. So we like to have that line between reality and fiction. So yeah, when we're doing the research, there's always a bit of what was going on at the time.
So I wouldn't say that. Okay, on reverse, I would say that there are some real world supernatural elements included in Ratchet, but I'm not really an expert. I did some reading, but I'm not really an expert. So I know that there are some people in the role playing community that are really experts on those subjects, and maybe you are one of them. I suppose you know more about that than I do, certainly. But yeah, it's certainly there, and I try to include it as much as it's possible because it's much more interesting. For example, in Magic, to do rituals that are kind of realistic in execution instead of just hocus pocus and fireballs.
Yes, I think there's a lot of room to explore. There's a lot of material, rather, to explore in tabletop RPGs when it comes to those processes and rituals. You could have like a lot of subsystems. Even H.P. Lovecraft, a lot of people do not notice, but it is quite clear that Lovecraft took some things from occultism in real life. I think it was, yes, the case of Charles Dexter Ward. If you notice the words that the main character uses at the very end, that's Kabbalah, complete Kabbalah, what he uses at the very end in order to avoid spoilers. And I thought, Lovecraft, so you have been studying that. Yeah.
I'll have to take a look at it. One thing that I really like, is some of Umberto Eco's books. And when I was preparing Darkness and other horror stuff, I kept browsing through.
The way how he talks about secret societies and all that historically is really interesting.
Foucault's Pendulum was something that I browsed through because I was.
And you read it a lot of times, right?
Yeah. It's almost like an encyclopedia of real world supernatural. Even though in the book it's mostly a fake, but it's interesting, at least as a source book.
Now, when it comes to sci-fi settings, because you have Wretched Space, of course, in the process of coming up with a fictional future, is it too challenging? Because you have mentioned that it's a bit more interesting to sometimes explore the past and the fantasy, the past, and all that. But when it comes to sci-fi, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it wasn't easy. Especially, the Avalidad was simple because it's near future, and that's and I had already an idea about how to execute it. But Wretched Space was a little bit more trickier because it's difficult to get away from certain cliches. Star Wars, Star Trek, and John Carter of Mars. Yes, that kind of thing. I didn't really want to go that way, so I had a stupid idea. Probably I was thinking about to do something like the universe of Star Trek, but if it was if the Federation was really corrupt and failing, and then it came something like and then we had to have a hook for wretched characters.
Hmm.
So the first thing that we did for wretched space was how are we going to put wretched characters here. So I thought, okay, there's a thing called the wretched legionnaires. That is something like the foreign legion, the French foreign legion. These are guys that are criminals, and they are taken from jail and offered a chance to lead normal lives again if they do a time as legionnaires. Uh, in this case, in space, of course, they are given a ship that is just a pile of junk and some equipment, but not that
Yeah.
much. And they are sent to the outer rim to patrol the area of the outer rim. And they are like in what's it called? A Snake Plissken's movie.
Escape
Escape
from
from
New
LA,
York.
from New York.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So they are injected a bomb that will explode if they are if they don't follow the instructions they were given. So they are obliged to stay in touch and to accomplish the missions they are given by the Federation. So that was the hook, and then there was the background. The background is the known space is controlled by a very corrupt and old Federation, and things are growing
Unstable.
unstable.
I would
That's the
say
word.
it like that.
Yeah, and there's kind of a start of a war with the planets in the outer rim that want to rebel, and so there's a rebellion growing there. But the rebellion aren't the good guys as in Star Wars. There are no good guys here. They're all bad. So they want to rebel, but they aren't really doing it for a good cause. They just want to stop being told what to do by the
Yeah,
Federation. And
and pay taxes and have nothing in return. There may be some similarities or inspirations here with the European Union. It's not a complete coincidence.
when I described the Federation, I was thinking about the European Union.
Hmm. I can totally see that. Yeah. Now, when it comes to both of you being writers and designers, is your professional RPG life somewhat affecting or influencing the times you spend playing RPGs a month? Have you been playing more more times a month or less? Tell me about that.
I think
You're
we are
definitely
playing
playing
more
more.
right now. Yeah, not much more because the well, mostly because we are playing with people in other countries, and there's the scheduling problem. It's not really easy. So for example, today we were supposed to have a later today we're supposed to have a game session, but we can't because one of the persons is not coming. So we decided not. So it's not really easy, but we play about once or twice a week.
Well, that's pretty
We
good.
probably
Once or twice. That's
yeah,
mhm.
we
Yeah,
probably only going to play next year because I guess with Christmas everybody's going to be too busy.
yeah, yeah, probably.
Mhm. Now, when it comes to current challenges, because I understand completely the technical issues at the start, but now that you're running your company, what would you say are the greatest challenges to overcome right now?
uh, Trying to grow and to reach the public, especially now that we're not selling at drive-through, so it's a bit hard to get new people and get to new people.
So yeah, that was the major challenge we had. We started 1 year and a half, more or less, ago, um, and I think we had some luck at the beginning. perhaps because we had the channel before and we were talking to people, and we had not really a large following in the YouTube channel, but well, there was some, and for some reason, possibly because the concept of Ratchet was not really new, but there aren't that many games that play anti-hero that allow players to go to this kind of character, anti-hero characters, and even well, there are some, but there are just one game, probably not a game line. So we were publishing different things. So we had some luck at the beginning. We were uh, we were selling enough to make this a real thing. But then we had that problem at drive-thru. We were banned from selling there, and after that, we still have a group of people buying from us. I can't really tell how many, but there are somewhere between 300 and 500 people, and they follow our work, and but it's difficult to grow because the major store is close to us, and it's not really easy to advertise or to get people to know us or to know the work. So that is the major challenge, to grow the audience.
Yes, I think it's important to understand that, because no matter how many things a company says that, oh, we apply our policies to everyone equally and all that, it always comes to the politics of the one in charge, the one running the company. So
Yep.
I think everybody should be aware of that, even though a company is supposed to be following the letters, the rulings, or everything that has been established. It always comes down to what you like and what you don't like, and there was obviously something that they didn't appreciate from your creations. But I think you have been doing great sticking to your principles, to your design choices. And now, what would you say? There must have been like a triggering product that definitely took you out of the store, because I have seen many drive-thru RPG products, and some of them have a lot to do with even sexual things, and they are still going. So what would you say was the thing, the tipping point that someone in drive-thru RPG said, "What? You have that in my store? No way! Out of here!"
No,
Well,
we know. We
yeah,
know.
it was, but it was two things. It was a product
Yeah.
specific, and that well, we complained.
Yeah, the fact that they
Mhm.
complained. They so we can explain that story, even though it was some time ago. But so really is the one we had already had some problems, some issues, but not really bad ones, because there's some people that had taken issues with our I don't know with us. I
They
think.
were reporting, yeah, they were
No,
reporting our titles even when there was nothing wrong about them. And we were a bit
So
upset with that, because
yeah,
if one day the title, the book is removed right in the beginning, there's less people that are going to see it, right?
even if it's just for a short period, because when they remove it to analyze it or to review it, it stays outside of view, so for hours or a day or 2 days, depending on the time they take. And it was a bit annoying because there was one book that they considered that
Oh
was
yeah, there was a book that they asked to. Yeah, I was forgetting about that one, but we removed it.
they told us that we could either change it or remove it. And I decided no,
It was
to
an
change it.
horror adventure inspired in Hellraiser that was called Sexual Holocaust, but it was marked as mature.
Yeah, of course, it had to be, but it isn't really nothing special.
Oh,
Just
only thirsty sword lesbians are allowed here.
yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Have you seen?
that
but
kind of stuff is always allowed, and
but then we published another
that's just
book
one.
that it wasn't. We didn't wrote it. Someone else wrote it, so we just published it. That's a book called Men. It's a manly. It's a role playing game for manly men. So it's a joke. It can be also a game, but it's mostly a joke. And of
It
course,
is in fact, it is a game. So, but it is
yes,
a
it
game
is a
that is
game.
so funny that I don't know if you can play it. We'll probably just laugh. But so it's kind of science fantasy game where you play men from Earth that are in a weird planet.
That is shaped like a giant woman.
It's actually it's a giant woman. It's
Yes.
really a giant woman, and it's populated by strange people, and some of them aren't actually people. The feminazis and the Bumistani and the Nobalazi that are men that have no balls. So it's really a funny thing, but it makes jokes about everything, not just leftist stuff.
Yeah,
They also,
it points at every side. It's
but obviously someone felt offended and reported it, and they started reading it and analyzing it, and they probably got so offended with it that they went and checked our social media. And then, that was really the problem, because before we had complained about them when they had removed other products, not this one, in the past.
even when they removed it for inspection, and then there's nothing wrong with this. It's there again.
And so their reasoning for banning us was the fact that we complained about stuff, and
Which is even worse, because we're removing you because you complain about us.
well, anyway, if they had allowed us to stay, if we hadn't complained, the most likely thing would happen is from then on they would have to review everything before we release it. They do that with some people. They do that with Venger at least, and I know that there are some more people that they do that. So it wouldn't be the same. We would have to be constantly censoring ourselves, self-censoring before releasing, and then they would do their own censoring. And I really don't like it, because they are a store. Okay, they have the right to not publish things, but they shouldn't have the right to address the publisher and say, "Oh, you have to change this and this and this." But that's not your job. They aren't publishers; they are a store. They should just stick to what they do, which is sell stuff, and then sell it or not sell it, but not interfere in the creative process, because that's not the role of a store, of a seller. That's the same thing as the guy who works in the bookshop starts complaining, "I don't like this. Take it back. Write it, man. I don't like it." So it makes no sense.
Yes, it was obviously quite an emotional response on their part, because sometimes the staff from Retro RPG, they appear with their pictures, helping customers with comments and all that. But you see their pictures and, well, their aesthetics. Pretty much, you were perhaps criticizing their lifestyle according to their own view, so they wouldn't have that, obviously. But
Oh, I'm
yes, I
sure
think that sort of censorship is the death of creation. Imagine all
yeah.
of those great authors like The Dying Earth, the book The Dying Earth would have never existed, and because that book criticizes everything, it doesn't spare anything, religion, art, philosophy, criticizes all of it. I cannot see that book having success today if it were to be written or published in current times.
Lots of things that could be done nowadays. We don't even watch new movies now. You're just watching
Yeah, because
old
we get
stuff.
annoyed.
Just it's everything is so shallow and so watery and so same. It's always the same
Or just
thing.
and always the same point of view.
Yeah, everything is safe now.
I also really dislike it when they remove the main character from the series, like, oh, He-Man, the new He-Man cartoon, and oh, He-Man, and He-Man is eliminated and then, oh, Scott Pilgrim, we have Scott Pilgrim. Scott Pilgrim is eliminated immediately. Yeah, that's so horrible. Why would you name a show He-Man and Scott Pilgrim if it's not going to start that character?
Yeah, but they want to call attention with that. Okay, watch this show. Oh, but it's not what you're thinking. Even with The Witcher, well, we stopped watching the Witcher series on I really liked The Witcher, and I wasn't liking. Although I liked Henry Cavill playing The Witcher, but I wasn't liking the the show very much, but we watched that spin-off that they did. We watched an episode with no Witcher, but they're still calling it The Witcher.
Yeah, very silly.
Yes, and it also speaks that there is a certain bankruptcy of originality. They can no longer produce things, and
Yeah.
they have to use those names that were established before
Mhm.
and play the old bait and switch. And then, hey, this is what you were saying the show was going to be about. You changed everything. But I think that's great about you as publishers like you, that you now have almost complete freedom to design whatever you like without waiting for someone to tell you, hey, that's not in agreement with my policies. Change it completely.
Yeah, it was
Exactly.
a liberating experience to have. Not that we wanted to do something so offensive that would annoy people. That wasn't the purpose.
No, but the problem is that people get annoyed to get offended
Easily.
too easily now.
Yeah, the people for whom we are writing, and which is ourselves first, but people who think like us and who like the same things that we like, won't be offended by violence or some sex. No, not that we. And I'm not using any explicit scenes, visual scenes, not even nudity, or just breasts.
Sometimes you have boobs.
Yeah, boobs. Boobs is the worst thing that I don't go further because I don't think it's. I have nothing against it, but sometimes it would look a little bit like I don't know, poor. It could be a poor choice for that. I don't know.
Yes.
For a role playing game, you don't really need it, even though the possibility is open. But yeah, well, it's not really offensive. It's just violent, maybe. Of course, some things are violent. Some things are horror, obviously. Some things have gory descriptions, and all that is an option. But it's not really that. And I would say that at drive-through they have content that is more offensive than ours. For example, the game Cult, which
Mhm.
I was a big fan before until the latest edition. I didn't like it, but the other ones I was a very big fan. And that game is a very adult, very mature in themes. And
Did I hear that correctly? The leftist version of Cult?
I didn't say that, but it could be. It could be said as
But do
that.
you mean the
Yeah,
current one?
the
Ah,
Powered by the Apocalypse.
but
Powered by the
well,
Apocalypse,
I
and I
have
don't really like it.
the highest opinion for that one, but that I didn't notice. Maybe I didn't pay enough attention, but I
You
didn't notice any political things in that.
no, I don't think so.
No, it's not. I think for the people that were very fans of the old cult, it's different because they changed a bit the mythology, and also
Uh-huh.
we don't really like Powered by the Apocalypse rules. It doesn't
Yeah,
work for us, so that
we
also
tried
put
it.
us off.
We tried it. At first, it
Mhm.
was that was the main reason. We tried it, and yeah, Powered by the Apocalypse doesn't work for me. I know that some people
What do
like
you
it quite
dislike
quite
about
much.
the system?
Mostly the fact that the characters, the players, have too much agency, and I think that spoils horror. And as the game master as well, I don't like the way that those moves and all that. It breaks the immersion. I think I don't like the rules that interfere too much in playing the characters. I don't like that. So I think that interferes with the immersion in the game. I know that some people are accomplished to play it and still even with that, but I have some difficulty in understanding how to.
I don't. Yeah, it's that level that it has as a narrative game that you are building a story as a player and not
Yeah,
really playing. For me, it takes you to that level, and I don't. When I'm playing, I want to be on playing. I want to build a world with the actions of my character. I don't want to think out of character of what the story is going to be like. And I feel that this type of games take you to that level.
even though Powered by the Apocalypse is not the worst one, there are
Mhm.
story games that are even worse at that. But still, it has some blocking.
And there was
That has
also
a
the
lot to
bit of
do with.
changes in. No, no, go
Yes,
on.
go
Then I
ahead.
can say that I was saying that there's also some changes in the backstory of cult. That
Yeah,
is the for this new one the
perhaps it's something that you don't mind, the Gnosticism being made more important, I guess. For me, it was the least interesting part of Cult in the past. I liked it as Hellraiser, the unofficial role playing game. I
it's
like the
the low
references.
level, right? That is the
Yeah,
thing that we like to play in, like this low
yeah.
level.
They made the backstory and the mythological stuff too important for me in this one. So
I
for
actually
one,
love that. I love all
yeah,
the
well, I
Gnosticism.
understand. I understand that some of the fans that were fans in the old times also like the new one because they like the mysticism and all that part. But since I didn't like it, uh, it was another reason to prefer the old cult. But it's a different styles,
That makes
different.
sense. Hmm. Now, when it comes to the Powered by the Apocalypse system, I think you have seen it or you have played it with horrible role players, like you'd say, because there are people that cannot tell the difference between storytelling and role playing. They think it's all about, oh, yes, my character jumps at the ogre and sinks his axe in the ogre's head and he kills him and now he celebrates. No, you're not telling a story, you're playing a role.
Mhm.
I jump at the ogre and swing my axe at his skull. Make your roll. You miss. And the ogre pushes you away. So you really get into character. And when it comes to Powered by the Apocalypse, there are a lot of mechanisms that can easily fall into the trap of playing it everything like a story with the players taking control of the game master's duties during the session.
Mhm.
And the most problematic thing perhaps is the questions when you make your role. Let's say you're talking to a non-player character, you make your role and then the game master tells you, hey, now you can ask 3 questions about this conversation, and then they go out of character. Is the
Yeah,
non-player
exactly.
character nervous when I mention the theft? But that can also be handled through roleplay. You make your role and the game master can tell you, you can obtain 3 clues or whatever, and the player could say, I pay attention at my enemy's gaze while I mention the theft of the jade idol. And then the game master can tell you he becomes really nervous and he keeps looking towards the left. Things like that. And it really needs to have that role play because otherwise, Powered by the Apocalypse, it turns into a storytelling, game master player, out of character conversation fiasco, at least in my
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah, I don't really like that. Sometimes when I'm a game master and the players are talking to each other, I just let them for 5 minutes. Okay, let them. That's what we are doing here. We are playing characters, and if you are in character and you're just talking, I can
We're
go and
not gonna stop
fix
with
myself a drink.
yeah,
But
let's do a roll, right?
yeah,
We had a
let
session
people.
in which one of our play that was funny, one that comes. So he tried to get inside my car. I'm not sure what he was trying to do, but I caught him, and then we started having an argument. And he was trying to send. He made us some really lame excuse. Uh, why
Yeah,
he was there, and then in the end he was saying, oh, but I should have rolled for and then Miguel was like, no, it was too stupid, he just let us go. And then the other players came and they were all shocked because I accused him of trying to rape me. It was like, oh my god, what he's doing in my car. And everybody was against him, and the guy was like, oh, you should have been able to roll. But we just let it because yeah, I think the scene was being so funny. That's
And those sorts of things actually can add to the role play. Just the other day, I had a session with one of my clients because I'm a professional game master. One of my clients, and he was role playing. He's playing a mallard. He's one of those angry duck people from Dragonbane. So the mallards are like duck humanoids, very angry, and he started to attack an enemy. But he wanted to role play while activating his ability of becoming enraged, so he did that damage, and I told him, roll 2d6 of damage because he was using an improvised weapon. But then I didn't mention that he could roll his rage. He wasn't sure if he could add the bonus from his enraged state. So he said something like, "As I attack my foe, I am wondering, why isn't my rage injuring him more?" And I like, ah, got it. And add a d4 bonus damage for this. Yeah, so all of those things that you think that you can only handle having a conversation outside of character, you can actually handle it through roleplay. And I actually
Yeah.
like that about Wretched role playing game. I think your system is quite conductive towards that, even though you have those game rules. There is still
Mhm.
plenty of room or possibilities to use those, take those rules, those results, and apply them directly into the fiction.
Yeah, I try to do that. And if people ask me about rules, I will say that well, but you use them if you want, but not all rules are necessary. Some of those are just optional, and they have more granularity if you want it. But if you don't want it, just
Mhm.
you just need attributes and skills, and sometimes even that is too much already. But that well, I like the idea that the game has um, detailed rules for creating a character because sometimes it helps you to come up with something that you didn't think about. Just looking at, for example, something that usually OSR games don't have perks like advantages and disadvantages. Sometimes I don't like the OSR people doesn't like that, but I think it can create some interesting choices for characters. I didn't think about this, but well, there's this disadvantage here, and in game sometimes it will create problems for your character that wouldn't happen if you didn't have that. So it creates a role playing situation sometimes. But if you don't want to use it, well, okay, you don't have to use it. It's possible to just remove it from the game and other stuff like that.
Yes, because it's all about what you want for your experience and also that balance between role play and game. There are some people that are
Yeah.
completely in love with the game aspects. They love the many fiddly bits of that various role playing games,
Yeah.
and it's perfectly fine. You can add those rules. You are playing a game as well. There are some others that really enjoy the strictly role play, almost no rules. You can also have that experience. Just a few, like a week ago, I think, I actually reviewed a game that had no system, the role playing game with no system, where you're basically describing your actions, and based on the context and the interpretation, no dice, no character sheet, then things happen.
I don't recommend people watch us playing because we are really almost free form, but that's because we know each other and we have similar tastes. So we aren't really doing a really good job at showcasing. We almost don't roll anything, but we this is our style. It's not really something that would recommend other people to do. It's just if you like it, well, why not? But
Mhm.
it's a specific way of handling things. Um, but the game itself has rules enough for someone that likes to play it by the book. And I understand that approach. Doesn't work for me. It's not something that I couldn't even do it as a game master. As a player, I guess it's easier, but as a game master, I couldn't do that. It's not my style. As a player, I could play it occasionally, but it's not really what I enjoy. So I'd rather not do it. But
Well, the rules are there to decide the outcomes
yeah,
when things are needed, right?
for us, it's like that. It's so the game master is an arbiter, the referee, and is there using the rules when it's a conflict and it has to be solved. Well, use the rules. That's why they exist as a tool for a referee, and I think that's the major function for the rules, not to come between you and the immersion in the game, but to solve conflicts in a just way, I guess, a fair way. Not to just otherwise it would be the game master deciding stuff based on his personal preference. But if there are rules for that, he acts like a judge, so he decides what is according to the rules, what is the outcome of a situation in a fair way, at least kind of fair.
I hope that many people understand that when you play a tabletop RPG, there is really no disconnection between you and your character, even if you're rolling dice. Just like me,
Mhm.
look, I am twiddling my fingers and I am speaking. I can even look to the right, to the left, and there is no disconnection. My hand is still working. So this is my in character, even though I am rolling dice, I am using the rules. You can have your mind in several places at once, even though at least that one is not too complicated. So that's crucial when it comes to understanding the role play and game aspect.
Yeah, especially for the
Yes.
players. The game master is a little bit more
Well, thank
difficult.
you so much for being here. Do you have something else to talk about before we wrap this up?
No, well, maybe it depends when you are going to release this. Until the end of the month, we have our first editions are all free. Uh,
In
so if
PDF
you
in our
want,
store, and we
yeah,
have a discount for people that want to buy the second editions.
yeah, 50%. So that is if you want to know the system and the settings, it will be. Uh, anyway, the core book is free, and it will be always be free. Wretched RPG, the core book. So at our store and the other stores, the Big Geek Emporium and Giant Slayer Games, they are small stores, but they have PDFs for sale. So if you want to know our system, and in this case the first editions, it's a good time for that, and then you can look at the other stuff there. We have almost, I don't know, 60 products released until now, or maybe more than that.
And there is also a compatibility guide, right, in the core rulebook for Wretched role playing. So if you have like older things, you can also convert
Mhm.
Yeah,
things to
yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just a small thing. It's not really. There are new rules, but the old ones just changed names mostly. Basically, that.
Well, that's excellent. Miguel, send me links to everything that you want me to link to this interview. I am going to be uploading it in about an hour or two so that everyone knows
Good.
where to purchase your games. I'm going to put a link to your channel, all of that.
Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, there
Okay,
you
thank
have it,
you.
folks. We have Miguel and Silvia from Red Room Publishing. Definitely worth supporting these creators because they are sticking to their principles, coming up with fun and exciting settings and variations, of course. Miguel, Silvia, once again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you, and see you.
Bye bye.
Excellent. So now I am going to stop recording in a while. And remember, everyone watching at home, it is better to roleplay and fail in character than not to roleplay and fail as a player. So please check out the links in the description and in the pinned comment. I hope you spend the rest of the day in happiness and you have a great time this holiday season. I'm going to stop recording right now.